freezer. Victory! Your mother left an extra pair of you-know-what in the office. Sorry, that's the best I got. This is Hall Monitor, and as you'd expect, it deals with hall monitors. The way Hey Arnold works is they rotate hall monitors, and the current hall monitor is Helga Pataki, and she gets to pick the new hall monitor, and she decides to pick Phoebe due to their friendship, feeling that Phoebe could benefit from learning to stand up for herself. And Phoebe does it, but she's a very quiet person who has this soft little voice. Kind of like Fluttershy from My Little Pony, except Phoebe's probably way smarter than Fluttershy. And she's not doing it. Everyone's stepping all over her. So Helga takes it upon herself to train Phoebe and teach her how to be more assertive. While it goes well and makes Phoebe a very efficient hallmark, it actually winds up working too well because not only is Phoebe a good hallmark, she is like super authoritative. Like Helga, when she was hall monitor, was somewhat authoritative, but Phoebe is like super authoritative. No cuts, no butts, no coconuts. I love that line. And it gets to an extreme, and eventually Helga talks Phoebe down, convinces her this isn't you, this isn't who you are, you need to chill. And Phoebe chills. Overall, I thought this episode was fine. And as I've said before, Hey Arnold has a lot of episodes where the concept's been done a million times, and this was one of those times. Because there's been episodes of cartoons where there's a character who became hall monitor, where the formula is we have the quiet, non-authoritative character who's thrust into this position of power. They become drunk with it, exercise it too much, trying to become a great hall monitor, and they wind up going too far with it. Shows like this include Robot Jones, Jimmy Neutron, and even to some extent SpongeBob, the episode where he becomes hall monitor. So let's talk about the core of the episode, which is Helga and Phoebe. And I mentioned in a previous vlog that I found the relationship between Helga and Phoebe kind of interesting. And that, again, there are these two characters who shouldn't be friends, they're normally friends. And here that relationship takes a lot of spotlight. It's probably like one of the best things about this episode. Because normally in Hey Arnold, when we have a Helga Phoebe episode, it's usually Helga's the one overreacting and going out of line. Phoebe's the one who has to sort of rope her back in, bring her back down to earth. And this episode's the opposite. It's Phoebe who's getting out of line and overreacting, and Helga's the one who has to rein her in and tell her to calm down. Originally, as I was watching this, I felt like this is an episode that you could have done with some other character like Arnold or Eugene, but again, if you do Phoebe, then you have the Helga-Phoebe dynamic, which I love. And it's just nice to see Helga in this sort of empathetic, supportive role. And it's great because, again, we're seeing these characters we've seen a million times before, but we're seeing them in a different scenario, and we're seeing them kind of act differently from how they normally act. Phoebe's arc was done really well, like, as far as just her becoming assertive. Like, it's a gradual thing. It's not like there's this one instance and bam, she's suddenly not nice anymore. It's like a series of things. Like, it starts out just simply Helga just wanting to help Phoebe stand up for herself. And eventually it just sort of escalates into Phoebe just becoming a completely different person. That's so real life. And it's one of those great moments where it shows the friendship between Helga and Phoebe, which I'm really curious if the show's ever going to delve into how these two became friends, because it's so fascinating that these two characters who are just could not be more different from each other, yet Phoebe's Helga's best friend. Again, I don't know if the show is ever going to really go into why or how or the qualities that they value in each other, like, because, again, Phoebe's a nerdy girl, and the thing that Helga should be stepping on, and Helga's kind of this bratty person at times who can come off as shallow, and it's really curious, like, what qualities each values in the other. And again, please answer that someday. If not, we don't need. There's enough there in between the interactions that I could kind of just infer, like, okay, maybe Helga likes that Phoebe's smart. Maybe she likes glad to have someone there who gets her and is there telling her to pull back. And for Phoebe, it's there having someone who's willing to stick up for her or something. Back to Phoebe being assertive, being hall monitor, it must have been an exciting and terrifying thing as a voice actor. You're coming in, you're doing the same kinds of dialogue and delivery, And then one day you come in and you're told, all right, today you're going to have to act mean. And I guess it's a refreshing change, but also probably is a little terrifying because you come in, it's like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? I've never done. Although, and it's not like the actors for Hey Arnold are like professional voice actors, at least as far as the kids are concerned. Most of these are child actors who probably haven't had a ton of acting experience. So it's not like you're asking Billy West or Tara Strong to come in and kind of channel a different side than they channel in another show. You're asking a bunch of kids who've kind of been coming in to do the same kind of character thing over and over. You're asking them to do something different. And with the exception of Tress MacNeille, who voices Helga, none of the other characters have that much range. So I can only imagine what it must have been like for Phoebe's actor. My only real gripe with this episode is I thought the ending felt rushed. Like everyone just sort of talked to Helga, encouraged her to look inside herself, and like that on a dime she snapped back. And when I think of all the time that it took Phoebe to get to where she was, I felt that for her to just snap back to her old ways, I thought it felt a little forced. It felt, I mean, I understand it's only 11, you only have 11 minutes to do this, and this is probably the best you could do in 11 minutes, but it did just feel like they made a sharp turn and just hoped everything worked out. There are a bunch of little things in the episode I kind of liked. Again, as I mentioned, the no cuts, no butts, no coconuts line, which I'm going to use in life from now on. When they're in the cafeteria, when that line happens, I really found the lunch menu fascinating for the cafeteria. I mean, high school cafeteria food I don't remember being particularly good, but it looked a bit more interesting than what we had in my high school, where we just had these okay wraps, which weren't that great. It's interesting that in Arnold's school, the new hall monitor is picked by the current hall monitor. Because in the Jimmy Neutron episode, they're drawn out of a hat, and I think that's more random and fair. Also, I just hate when you have to have the current kid pick the next one, because it just leads to a lot of bias. Because they're going to pick their best friend. Like, think about any time in elementary school where a student got to pick someone else for something. Did they ever choose the person that no one ever talked to? Sometimes, but usually from what I remember, they'd choose their friends. It's kind of interesting how I keep seeing the hall monitors in kid shows, because I never had a hall monitor in my school. Again, as always, leave your thoughts on the episode below. If your school had hall monitors, I'd love to hear about that, although whether or not you share, that's your own choice. And I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.